Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the English class. Have you heard of the Arabian Nights? The Arabian Nights, or the 1001 Nights, is a magnificent collection of Middle Eastern and South Asian stories and folktales. These stories have enthralled its readers for centuries. The Second Voyage is a tale from the Arabian Nights, and it narrates the adventurous voyages by Sinbad, an adventurous sailor who lived in Baghdad. So today, in chapter 6 of your English reader, we are going to learn the story of Sinbad. And here in this chapter, Sinbad narrates the story of his second voyage to an ardent listener who would come to him every day to listen to his adventurous voyages. So all of you please take your English reader and turn to page number 80. Let's read the story. I had made up my mind to stay quietly in Baghdad, but it was not long before I grew bored of a quiet life. I wanted to see the rest of the world, so I decided to set sail once again. I bought a stock of goods with which to trade, and I set sail with some of my merchant friends. So what does it say? Sinbad had gone on a voyage and has come back to his place. And days were passing by and he was getting bored. So he decides to go on a voyage once again. So what did he do? So he bought a stock of goods to trade so that he has enough money during the travel. I bought a stock of goods with which to trade and I set sail with some of my merchant friends. So he planned on going this voyage on this adventurous trip with his merchant friends. For many days, we went from one island to another, trading and making a tidy profit. So they were going from one island to the next and they were trading goods in between to make enough money. One day though, we came to an island that seemed to be covered with fruit trees. My friends went to gather fruit and flowers, but I took some food and sat in the shade of a huge tree. So during their journey, they happened to reach this island, where the island was full of fruit trees. So Sinbad and his friends got down there to collect some fruits and flowers from there. His friends were enjoying fruits while he was having some food under the shade of a tree. After eating a good meal, I lay down to sleep. I don't know how long I slept, but when I awoke and looked out to sea, the ship had gone. It was nearly out of sight, a distant speck on the horizon. So what happened? They got down on this island and his friends were having a great time enjoying fruits and he was having food under the shade of a tree. He got tired and he decided to sleep under the tree. And he slept off and he doesn't know how long he slept. But when he woke up, he could not find his friends on the island. What happened? They had boarded the ship again and they were gone. The ship was gone. I called out to my companions, but they had gone. Not knowing what to do, I climbed up to the top of a tall tree and looked out over the island. In the distance, I could see something white and I decided to find out what it was. I packed up my remaining food and set off across the island. So what did Sinbad do? He climbed up on a tree and he was looking out to the sea. He was looking if he could find a ship or something. But what he saw there, he saw something white at a distance from there. And he decided to find out what he was seeing from the top of the tree. And he decided to set off from the island. Now, let's see what happened next. After a while, I came to what seemed like a huge white dome or a ball. It was smooth to the touch. It was so high that I could not see the top of it, and it was more than 50 paces around. Suddenly, the sky above me became dark as if a huge cloud was covering it. Looking up, I saw the shadow of a huge bird flying towards me. So what happened? He was wandering through the island and he came across something mysterious. He sees something white and huge, and it was shaped like a dome or like a ball, and he did not know what it was. He tried to touch it and it was smooth to touch. And it was so huge that he could not even see the top part of it. And after a while, he sees some shadow above his head. And when he looked up, what did he see? He saw something that seemed like a bird, like a huge bird. Let's see what happened next. I had often heard sailors talk of a mysterious and wonderful bird called a roc. This must be one, I thought, and this huge dome must be its egg. So he had heard stories about a mysterious bird. And what is the name of that bird? The bird is called roc. And it is supposedly a very huge one and it lays huge eggs. So he is assuming that what he saw there as huge white and dome-shaped is an egg of that bird. The bird came nearer and finally sat on its egg. Yes, it was indeed the bird roc's egg. And this bird came near the egg and sat on top of it. I crept close to the egg. Near me, I saw one of the bird's legs, which was as big as a tree. I decided to tie myself to the leg with my turban so that when it flew away from the island, it would carry me with it. So Sinbad was trying to figure out some ways to somehow escape from that island. And he comes across this huge egg and he sees this huge bird coming and sitting on top of its egg. Sinbad was hiding behind his egg and he immediately got a plan. He thought he'll hang on to this bird's huge legs to escape from that island. When the bird flies away from the island, he can also go away from that or escape from that island. So what did he do? He untied his turban. What do you mean by a turban? In some cultures, men wear a headdress or head covering. It is called a turban. It's a long piece of cloth wrapped around the head in a particular way. He untied his turban and he wrapped himself to the bird's leg with his turban. At first light, the bird took off and up so high that the island was soon out of sight. So, at the break of the dawn, the bird flies away from this island. And Sinbad is latching to one of its legs, being tied himself with his turban. The bird was flying so high and fast that the island was soon out of sight. Then she came down again so fast that I lost my senses. The bird was coming down so fast that Sinbad almost fainted. When I found myself on the ground, I quickly untied the turban just as the bird caught up a snake with her beak and flew away. So they have come to some other island and Sinbad was latching onto this bird's leg. And the bird was flying high and fast, and when the bird landed on some other island, it saw a snake and it caught a snake and then tried to fly away from that place. So when the bird landed on this new place, Sinbad untied himself and got on the ground. And what did the bird do? The bird then caught a huge snake from that place and then flew away. And what happened next? I found myself surrounded on all sides by great mountains that reached high above the clouds. The sides of the valley looked so steep that there was no possibility of climbing them. So he has come to a new island and there it was mountains all around. Huge mountains that he could not even see what was beyond it. At first, I thought I had gained nothing by my flight, but when I began to explore the valley, I found that there were huge diamonds just lying on the ground. So what happened? He has come across a treasure. He has come to a treasure island. So at first he was thinking it was of no use to coming to this new place, but as he was wandering around, he comes across huge diamonds which were lying on the ground. I could not believe the riches lying about me, but then I saw something that frightened me. All along the slopes of the valley, there were huge serpents, some of them big enough to swallow an elephant. So this new island has got huge serpents in it. And Sinbad got very scared seeing them. They came out of their dens at night and during the day they hid themselves from the rock. So the rock, the huge bird, comes to this island to catch these huge serpents. So the serpents would hide in their dens during the daytime and they will come out only during the nights. I found a long, narrow cave to hide in and rolled a large stone in front of the entrance to keep out of the serpents. But the noise of their hissing outside made sleep impossible. So Sinbad was trying to hide from these huge serpents and he found a cave. But what happened? He went inside this cave and he was trying to sleep, but he could not sleep by this hissing sound, by this hissing noise which the serpents were making there. I was glad when they went to their dens at dawn and I was able to come out again. So like we said before, these serpents would come out during the nights only. During the daytime, they'll hide in their dens. Sinbad could not sleep all night and he was happy that at the break of the dawn, these serpents went inside their dens and Sinbad could come out from his cave once again. But I was still afraid. In fact, I found myself walking upon diamonds without a thought of their value. At last, being very tired, I decided to eat a little of my food and then to have a short sleep in the sun. So Sinbad came out of his den and he was walking around. And this island was covered with huge diamonds all over the ground and he was walking over these precious diamonds. He was getting tired and he wanted to have some food. He thought he'll have food and take some rest. I was suddenly awakened by something falling near me. I sat up and found that it was a huge piece of raw meat. I looked up and could see more pieces falling down from the rocks above the valley. So he was taking some rest and he was trying to sleep possibly, and he saw big pieces of meat falling from the sky and he did not understand what was happening. I had heard stories in the past about this valley of diamonds, but had never believed them. Now, though I saw with my own eyes how the local merchants collected the jewels, they used huge eagles to carry the diamonds for them. So Sinbad had heard stories about this valley of diamonds and how merchants would make a fortune by selling these huge diamonds taken from these islands. So how would the merchants collect these huge diamonds from that island? They would use huge eagles. So that's the story that Sinbad had heard before. When the eagles had young ones in their nest, they flew down into the valley to get food for them. So the merchants would throw down large pieces of raw meat and the diamonds would stick to the meat. When the eagles took the meat back to their nest, they also took the diamonds. So what was happening? The other merchants knew that this huge bird, Rock, who lives on the other island, would come to this valley of diamonds to take food from there, to collect food from there for their young ones when they're having babies in their nest. So these merchants would plan and throw big pieces of meat onto this island so that the diamonds would stick onto the meat. So that when the eagles would come and collect these pieces of raw meat, they would also take the diamonds from this island to the other island. So that's how they used to collect the huge diamonds from the valley of diamonds. Each merchant had his own nest and considered any jewels in it his. When these rocks come back to their nest, they would also bring in some diamonds and the merchants would come to this island to collect these diamonds. Each merchant would go to a nest and collect all the diamonds which got collected in that nest. The idea came to me that I too could use these eagles to escape from the valley. The eagles were so big and strong that my weight would be nothing to them. So just like how Sinbad escaped from the other island by latching onto a rock's leg, he planned he'll escape from this island also by latching onto an eagle's leg. These eagles were so huge that they would not even know if he latches to their legs. First, I collected some of the biggest diamonds I could find, which I put in my wallet and tied at my waist. Before leaving the island, before escaping from the island, Sinbad is collecting a few huge diamonds from the island. Then I tied one of the large pieces of meat to my bag with my turban. I then lay down with my face to the ground and waited. So what did he do? He tied one of the large pieces of meat onto his back so that one of the eagles may come and take this piece of meat away, and together with it he can also escape from the island. There was the sound of huge wings about me. Then I felt myself lifted up and carried to the top of the rocky walls of the valley. As the eagle reached its nest, I heard the merchants' cries as they tried to make the birds drop their meat. So soon, one of the eagles get hold of this piece of meat that Sinbad had tied onto his back, and this bird was trying to go away from the island with this piece of meat. And Sinbad finds himself being carried away along with this piece of meat from this island. So this eagle goes to its island, reaches its nest, and Sinbad could hear the merchants shouting to the birds so that the birds would drop this piece of meat, so that the merchants could collect the diamonds which were sticking to the piece of meat. One of the men came to the nest where I was, and great was his surprise at the sight of me. So Sinbad was also sitting in one of the nests. So one of the merchants was coming towards the nest to collect any diamonds in it, and he got surprised to see Sinbad there. In fact, he was angry because he thought that I was stealing his diamonds. So the other merchant always used to collect diamonds from this particular nest. So when he saw Sinbad in this nest, this merchant thought that Sinbad is trying to steal his diamonds. So he got angry. But I said to him, I am a friend, not a foe. What did Sinbad say to the other merchant? He said that he is not a foe. A foe means an enemy. He is not an enemy, he is just a friend. I am carrying with me enough diamonds for both of us. And Sinbad assured that other merchant that he has got enough diamonds for both of them. As I was speaking, the other merchants came to the nest, also surprised to find a man in it. So the other merchants also came near the nest, and they all got surprised to see a man on that island. They marveled at my story and my bravery in risking the dangers of the flight. They were so enthralled to listen to Sinbad's adventurous journey. Very soon they took me to their camp, and I showed them the size and beauty of my diamonds. They were fair and honest among themselves, and each man only kept the jewels that had come to his particular nest. So each merchant would collect the diamonds from a particular nest only. So when Sinbad was taken to their camp, they all showed the diamonds they collected to each other. And Sinbad says that all the merchants were very honest, and they only took the diamonds which were collected from their particular nest. The merchant who owned the nest to which the eagle had carried me would only take one jewel from me, though I offered him more. So the merchant who found Sinbad in one of the nests there, he would collect only the diamonds that he himself found from the nest. Even though Sinbad offered him more diamonds, he only took one from Sinbad. I'm quite satisfied, he said. Your gift is valuable enough to make a fortune in itself. So the other merchant said, just one diamond is enough for him to make a fortune. After spending the night with the merchants, I went with them on the long journey back to their homes. At last, I found the way to my own. When I was back again in Baghdad, I gave large sums to the poor. Then I lived in luxury in my peaceful house, thanks to the riches of my adventures. So what happened? So after spending one night with the other merchants, they all went back to their homes. Sinbad also went back to his native place, Baghdad. And with the fortune, with the huge amount of money he got by trading these huge diamonds, he helped a lot of poor people there. And afterwards, he also lived a luxurious life. So children, I hope you really enjoyed this story. There are a lot of adventurous stories described in the Arabian Nights. I suggest you read more and more. You might have read the story of Aladdin and the Magic Lamp, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. These are just a few stories from the Arabian Nights. So try to read more and more stories from the book. So that's all for today. We'll meet in the next class. Till then, bye.